Six Sigma,
Mhm.
uh,
Wow.
Six Sigma project management. That is that too in healthcare industry in a hospital sector.
Uh-huh.
My last working was on 2016. After that, I came to US, and
Mhm.
recently I've got my EAD. So I came to Gurukul. I came to know about Gurukuls. Then I attained my counseling session. Then
Uh-huh.
I enrolled today for this course.
Sure, sure, ma'am. Just to give you a heads up, basically, yeah, this is our kind of fifth or sixth session, right? So welcome
Okay.
here. I'm going to, we're going to have an extra session together. I'll share some, recordings with you. There are some challenges, like, last time we couldn't record completely, as Akhilji was pointed out in the group. There
Yeah.
are some challenges of, we couldn't get complete recordings, or might be due to some internet challenge, or I don't know what happened. We normally have 1.5 hour or max to max 2 hour session. So we start at
Okay.
9 p.m. and will go max up to 11 p.m. Right? That's it.
Okay.
Normally
Okay.
have 3 days a week. That's okay. That's basically Monday, Tuesday. No. Tuesday. No. Monday.
Thursday. uh,
Today is okay. I'm again. I'm in Mumbai right now. So
okay. So
basically.
for us, today is Thursday.
So we have Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
We'll not have a Saturday session. Instead, you and me will go over whatever we've done earlier, right? So
Okay.
that
Okay.
we're just starting up of understanding requirement. In good old 80s or 90s, project manager used to gather requirement. That's the business analyst job. In 2004, 2005, we created a separate cadre, like separate resource pool called business analyst. Now we have
Okay.
senior business analyst, and these analysts closely work with sales team, right? And
Yes.
here they gather requirement. So we have specialized people who gather requirements. These are called business analysts. So they analyze business, they analyze the background, they analyze the requirements of it, they analyze the overall how what business want, the background, what type of requirements we gather, and there's a process to it. Like, how do we gather requirement, what are the standardization in in the world. So IIBA is the institute we normally call, BA book is the reference manual for business analysts to basically have the best standard practices.
Okay.
I'll share that book with you. It's a download link. And we
Okay.
normally go by the standard practice of IIBA in terms of business analyst. In terms of project management, we'll go with the PMI. I believe you are PMI certified, right, that ma'am?
No, I am not certified.
No problem. But you should know, means whenever you speak,
Mm.
if you reflect those words in your speaking, in your interview,
Okay.
that will be your
Okay.
trick. And we'll discuss on those words, like which type of words to use, where, and how do we basically explain our product. Okay. Um,
Okay.
and that way I'll guide you on that. Plus, I'll share quite a few good interview questions as well. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
today we are going to start with the tools and techniques of BAs. So we've understood a bit of process of what we need to do in terms of BA. Okay. So Vandana ma'am, Akhil sir, who wants to explain what does BA does? Let's hear from them, because we are here for I think 4, 5, 6 sessions, right? So please, could you please guide me in your words, what do you understand by the process of business analysis? Akhil sir, Vandana madam, who wants to go? Hello. Yeah.
Okay, let me try and go on this. Can you guys hear me?
Sure.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
So, according to whatever that I have grasped so far, a business analyst is a person who acts as that, that key person between the decision makers or the business side of it and the technology part of it, and acts as that bridge who can actually gather information from the businesses,
Mhm.
from the product owners, or the business side of people,
Mhm.
um, try and get it in a very, very structured format so that their objectives are captured uh, in a structured way. The requirements are understood in detail. Calibrated in terms of what technology can deliver, and then can pass on that information to the tech side to get them to implement it. While that is being implemented, a business analyst would also uh, continuously monitor the implementation bit of it, and ensure that uh, the link between uh, the developers and the business is at a constant, or everybody's on the same page, so there is no mismatch between what's being developed and what the business wants, or what the biz on the other side, what the business wants and what's being developed types.
Right, perfect, perfect. So we are the liaison between client and the company we work for, right? So we normally take an example of me working as a business analyst in Infosys, and I normally coordinating with, or I'm doing a business analyst for enhancing the attendance management system at State Farm. Okay, so what we do, we normally go with the sales manager to meet these VPHR of State Farm, where he basically mentioned his idea of improving his manual way of attendance management to a new 24/7, this that, and all those floor and corners of it. So making the attendance system modernized or with the new technology and techniques available. And that's the example we normally carry forward. So me working as a sales manager, we working as a business analyst with Infosys and doing business analyst for State Farm on their attendance management solution. So we had first meeting. We created the minutes of meeting of it, and I'll share the minutes of meeting template with you. We'll basically try to fill in this minutes of meeting template, most probably next to next session, and then we'll start basically understanding how exactly we implement this thought process. Okay, we haven't actually done any hands-on works as of today, but next to the next session we'll start basically working on hands-on. Even we have certain small hands-on work today as well, as we have started to learn the tools and techniques of business analysis. Right now we have done mostly session of theoretical nature, so we have understood the process of how business analysts work on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so let me start with overall where we left last time, right? So last time we were basically trying to understand what are the traits we require as far as business analyst goes. So we need creative thinking, decision making. We need to learn on the job, because as we know, there are quite a few domains in the world, and whatever work comes my way, I need to understand, I need to learn and think about those domains. So as we have these project support, like whenever you join somewhere as an analyst, I'll be there with you to make sure you get all the links. We normally search by Google. Like we have started working in the sense, let's say for healthcare, I'll search in a Google like what type of healthcare solutions these guys are using. How can we learn about those systems before starting work actually, and so on so forth. I'll help you out to basically learning as well, problem solving in the sense of what business and what clients or stakeholder were talking, and what type of solution we can give as an option, and then work with those stakeholders to make sure the correct option have been chosen, and also preserve the artifact, the documents for whatever discussions happen. So we'll normally have minutes of meeting. We normally have whatever website link, the documents which are shared across to make that decision possible. We also help them to think systematically. What do you mean by systematically? What computer can't do, and all those kind of scenario, even including if this is costly, but it has really great quality attached to it. It's cheaper, but it might create some problem, and all the artifacts with that. So artifacts are basically supporting documents which we normally archive in our cloud, as we normally work on a cloud. So that's our storage. We normally put this document for later analysis as well by the auditors. So that's a kind of systematic flow we follow. So whatever we say with a concrete proof, auditory artifact. Okay, then conceptual thinking. What do you mean by solution? How do you find solution? This can be as simple as, to start with, how do we modify attendance management? So attendance management, like previously, an employee entering via gate, signing the register with a photo ID shown to the supervisor who is overlooking this process. And when supervisor okays, that employee will enter the building and the time has been noted, attendance has been taken. This was the process earlier. Now what we are migrating to, after 4 or 5 discussions, we came to a point like a conceptual solution of biometric or ID scanner to be suggested to the client, and then with the cost and all the processes involved in attendance, which should be getting done in seconds rather than minutes. There'll be no queue, as we can have 4 or 5 these iris scanners or biometric scanner on 4 or 5 doors. So you don't have to have anybody looking over the shoulder, like if he is Ravindra Pandey or if he's different person. You can't do proxy in biometrics, right? So in that scenario, we have to provide them a conceptual solution. So conceptual solution or visual thinking, we need to understand or imagine the process visually as well, and share with them these visual models, conceptual models with the client, so that it understand what type of solution are we constructing, forming, conceiving. Why we call conceiving? Because me as a business analyst, very crucial role, we start creating the basic building blocks of solution, like what it should be, how it should be, what type of different modules are involved in this visual thinking thought process. Okay, then we also understood from the PM book, that's a book of project managers authored by Project Management Institute, and they normally maintain it. If you do PMI, you have to refer to this book as in Bible. And as far as the project management thought process goes, everybody around the globe refers to this book as a Bible for project management practices. As far as PMI goes, they have these 2 conceptual blocks for collecting requirements. So these fall under the shoulder on the shoulder of business analysts. So what we do, we take inputs as in project charter. As we discussed, project charter is basically a document created before initiating a project. So this project normally have the business problem, business solution, who authored the vision first, who started the discussion from Infosys side, who started the discussion from State Farm side, what is the work contact, and those kind of details as well. Then as an entity, the sales managers start building a project management plan. And these are the initial stages. So first time, we start building a project plan, which includes project charter, and try to include the SRS detail into project management plan. We discussed SRS, it's system requirement document, system requirement specification, or SRD, system requirement documentation. This is authored by the business analyst. Business analysts build this. I'll share that template with you. We'll have a hands-on workshop on this SRS as well. Okay. Then we have project documents. These are all client certified artifact or business analyst artifacts, which were used to take decisions. Like biometric is better, iris scanner is better. And we also understood in some scenario, why we go for iris scanner, because in colder scenario, the biometric couldn't take the actual reading because of the frost and all those things, right? So such scenario. Then we also taking care of the agreements which are happened between the State Farm and Infosys. Infosys as a technical partner, State Farm as a client. And this is the, we follow throughout our session, be it a business analyst, be it a project management, be it, product owner, be it skilled agile, and we work on this basically. Okay, so please make sure you understand this example really well, and I'll keep repeating this thing, so don't worry. And then there are something called enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. We'll learn about these two whenever we start project management, sessions. But just to give you a heads up, enterprise environmental factors, these factors who influence the project uh, within these two organizations and surroundings. So these are like federal laws, state laws. These are like restrictions for importing anything from outside as a third party product, or there are some taxation rules. There are some, ways and means to address these enterprise environmental factors. So we need to include those as well. Then organizational process asset. Every organizations have something called quality management process. We'll learn about these things in project management um, quality management knowledge area. Okay, so here what we have some quality processes, we have some templates to be used for some specific process. Like for minutes of meeting, I'll share some template with you where you need to fill in the blanks. So you just type in the meeting was held on so and so date between so and so time to so and so time. I am the business analyst, my name, my actual designation, role, meeting was Zoom, Google Meet, personal meet, and so on and so forth. And all the details, points discussed, the action point assigned, and various other elements to it. So we'll write this, fill in this template so that whenever I write minutes of meeting, my minutes of meetings are disciplined in a documentary structure. And those can be audited by the auditors whenever they want, within Infosys or within State Farm as well. And this is what we call documentary artifacts. Now the outputs are requirement documentation is what we call about the SRS and the supplementary MOMs. Then we discussed about something called requirement traceability matrix. This is really crucial document with SRS and RTM. We basically substantiate our claim in building the solution with the conceptualized idea. So here SRS is a Word document normally, and RTM is basically a table where we normally include the idea like vision, who is expressed by visionary. In our example, we take a VPHR of State Farm explaining his idea of enhancing attendance management solution. So what we'll write in a first column, serial number 1, Mr. VPHR, so and so name, so and so designation, have expressed an idea of enhancing attendance management for State Farm. We had discussions on Zoom, Google, personally here, there, and we basically discussed this idea and have a reference in so and so minutes of meeting. And then I convert this vision, mission, whatever expressed by VPHR to a requirement or a list of requirements. So in the next column, I'll mention this list of requirements, which are going to get refined whenever we meet. Normally, business analysts meet with the stakeholder or a client visionary quite a few times. It's not a ribbon cutting ceremony. It's a process of understanding his or her vision and creating a list of requirement out of it. And then after list of requirement, we migrate this list of requirement to the feature list of a product, solutions, services, whatever we're going to create and supply to the State Farm. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion on that?
Mm,
Right? And you could be able to explain this thing in interview. Okay? And this is really a need. This is really a kind of way we should talk in an interview with a confidence with these words like EEF, OPA, enterprise environmental factor, organizational process assets, business charter, minutes of meetings, system requirement specification, functional requirement specification. These words should come out of, come out as an answer to the question asked by the interviewer, so that he or she will know you have practiced business analyst for so many years, and these words, please make a habit of using these words whenever we explain these processes. And I keep using these words just to make sure you also get a habit of explaining these words into discussions. This is a need because as an IT, uses this word information technology processes and policies to mention their work, to describe their work. It's like simple, right? When you meet a doctor, he uses his professional dialects. When you go to a lawyer, he normally explain his own dialect. If you meet a politician, he has his own dialects. So these dialects make sure you have been practicing these policies and processes for some time, and that way we can make sure the interviewer trusts you with your experience, with your all the way you are explaining to him or her. So this is important. Okay. Then we also discussed about the different techniques we use for collecting these requirements. These are brainstorming. Brainstorming is basically a meeting when everybody has a discussions on a one-to-one level or one-to-many level. In the scenario, we give time to everybody to explain their thought process, and then we zero down to the best agreeable points, and we also create a MOM of brainstorming. In brainstorming, all the participants are at a same level. Then we have document analysis. In document analysis, we normally study or analyze the documents supplied to us. We build our analysis on inferences on basis of the documents supplied to us, and create a process called as is, want to be, or where we want to go, the complete flow of how we migrate the current scenario to the future scenario. And then we create another document for these as is, or what we call gap analysis document, or scoping of migration document. We'll learn these things whenever we do the project management, because in project management, we normally review these document as an analyst. As a project manager, he owns these documents. So he are not an author, but he is a custodian. We'll see about who owns means you author the document. The document is named on you. So whenever a business analyst create requirement system requirement specifications or system requirements document, and we use the template from the organization quality processes, but still we name the document as in document created by or authored by. Depending upon every company's policies and procedure, we enter the name in the table on the first or second page of the template. And I'll share the template with you. That time you'll understand how this document owning works in a real scenario, because these are all artifacts. What do you mean by artifacts? These are normally presented as a proof to the auditor whenever he or she wants to check why do you take such decision, or why do you or how do you infer to this point. Infer to means how do you came to this point as a concrete supported proof required. So we normally refer to these documents. Okay, so it's something like when somebody asks you your birthday, you give them so and so date, right? But when somebody asks me, could you please tell me why do you saying this is your birthday? So either you'll show your passport, or you'll show your birth certificate, or whatever ID proof you have with you, saying, you see, this is my birthday. Even driving license normally have a birthday on that. So that's what the documentary or auditory proofs are all about. This is a better way of expressing in terms of IT. Even legality, we normally say documentary proof or substantial proof or corroborated proof. So these kind of words we should start using. Then we normally have something called subject matter expert, SME, or focus group. So if I'm working with Infosys might have worked with these biometric installation before in some other project. So what I go to my manager and ask, hey manager, I want some details, or I want to know if somebody in my organizations ever worked on something like biometric installation or iris scanner installation. So manager say, yeah, let me have a look at in my focus group or SME database. So he goes and search on the Infosys internet. Then he might find Ravindra Pandey, who have done 2 projects of installing iris scanner. So he gives me name, number, and everything. Normally Infosys, as we know, it's an IT giant. They have around 60,000 plus employees. And if you look at the Center of Excellences, Focus Group and SME, they have a database of around 5 or 6,000 such workforce who have already worked on quite a few good things, which can be designated as a subject matter experts. So they normally refer you to those saying, hey, analyst, please have a work with Ravindra Pandey. Please, send email as a request, hey, Ravindra, let's meet on Tuesday, or have a Zoom meet on Tuesday. If he's in India, then I might, start the meeting in the late evening or early morning. If he's in North America or Canada or somewhere, depending upon where he is, I'll plan the meeting. I'll schedule the meeting and have a 1 hour or 2 hour call, understanding how that, technology work, how that domain works, and so on and so forth. So there are domain expert groups, there are focus groups, and there are subject matter experts. We normally talk to them on as per the need basis. And then we have interface analysis. So as I talked about, this is the evolving part of the IT solutioning called usability engineering. So what usability engineering teaches us? Usability engineering basically guides us on the best possible scenario for users. So whenever you're developing an Android applications or any web application for certain region, certain religious group, there we used to use certain number of colors, certain number of way of designing, which will attract the users in a greater depth, or which will make the life of user quite easy to understand, to progress. Like we should use Urdu in the GCC region, we should use Hindi in the Indian region, we should use all the local languages wherever we are deploying these systems. In North America, we'll use American English. In Europe, we'll use the European English, and so on and so forth. So this way, we normally get attached to or get closer to the users to acquire their thought process in terms of how these systems should perform. So this is what we call user-centric design approaches. Then we also interview quite a few stakeholders. Stakeholder here refer to the client, counterparts. So whenever you go to the State Farm or we plan a meeting with the State Farm executive, I might talk to the VPHR, I might talk to the HR manager, I might talk to the HR executive of State Farm. Hello, yes. Any question for me? Oh, sorry. No problem. Okay. So we talk to these executives just to make sure whatever I'm, building as a list of requirements, they are fine with that. If they have certain wish list, I'll also add wish list to that list of requirement, and then we'll basically get them qualified, get them sanctioned, get them approved from the VPHR or whoever he nominates as an approval for those requirements. This way, I normally do interview is one-on-one, brainstorming is many to, we normally discuss in a team, discuss in a group of people. Now there's some processes called observing. Observing is also a requirement techniques where I normally observe the actual process, as in process as is happening as far as attendance at a State Farm goes, right? So there what we do, we normally just stand there and observe the process and then make notes and basically try to suggest the best possible scenario to the solution conceptualization. So observation is also one of the techniques business analysts use for requirement gathering. Here we are just trying to understand how the business analyst process works and how we can add value to it. Okay, then surveys or questionnaires. There are clients who are situated remotely or in some scenarios where we normally have some offices. Let's say in terms of State Farm have around 60 plus offices in North America, some 25 plus offices in Canada, and few in Spain and all those things. So these offices normally support those their regional clients. So whenever I try to have discussions with, let's say, Canadian people, so what I do, I normally float a questionnaire. Now, what is a questionnaire? A questionnaire is a kind of questions sent via digital means like emails, web page, Android application, and so on and so forth. And we normally ask questions to them, ask to select from multiple choices, ask to select from which is the best fit scenario to as in solution for this given requirement, and so on and so forth. And this is also done in multiple times. So here too many to interview with a budget and time constraint, so we use questionnaire and survey to support our requirement gathering. And these are also archived in our database or archived in our cloud space as an artifact. Then there's something called prototyping. When we try to create some requirements which are very complex in nature, which are mission critical, revenue critical, or critical in a scenario where we haven't done something like that earlier by anybody. So we are trying to invent in something will work together or not. So in that scenario, we do something called prototyping or proof of concept. We gather preliminary requirements that to use to build an initial version of a solution. So we build a small version. Let's say if you want to build a Land Rover vehicle, that's with the 8 wheels and all those type of different fighting instrument for anti-gravity and blah 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 things, right? So here what I do a proof of concept sitting on Earth, trying to imagine how it will perform on Mars. So I'll create some scenario or conditions like that and try to create a prototype and take my notes or basically verify my ideas of solutioning based on those proof of concept, right? Okay. And last time we had a video of business analyst training. I'll share that link again today. It's from one of the good trainer. It's hardly a few minutes video, which will give you an idea. This is for, as Akilji was not there and Soberji not there, so she can have a look at these videos as well. Okay. It's a small video available on YouTube. I'll share the link so you can understand the comments as well. Now, the documents which we create are, as we discussed, BRD, business requirement document or functional requirement document. The document which we normally interact, well, BRD or SRS is created by us. Functional requirement documents and FRS are normally created by the designers, architects of the world. Now, the FRS or FRD is based on the BRD and SRS. We need to use these acronyms, so I'm started using these acronyms whenever we speak. So these documents are based on documents we as an analyst we create. So for that, we have to have all those relevant discussions point in place so that whenever they create this document, whenever they elaborate these designs, what we do, we create or we start creating the designing. We are not the designer, we are not the architects, but up to a great extent, we conceive the solution, we conceptualize the solution, right? And the designers and the architects as a team. Normally, there are a few designers or architects given in a project, and they start elaborating the solutions based on SRS, the high-level diagram and the use case diagrams, and they take it to a level where developer gets what he or needs to be done on a given day. So that elaboration has been done by the trained architects or the trained designers. We conceptualize the project, right? So this will be the input for design, business processes, updates, product manufacturing, and modification process. We'll learn about that in a few sessions. But let's try to understand what type of tools we use in terms of analysis. So basically the flowchart. I used to have a list of tool, slides somewhere, but I think I'm missing. We normally going to understand 10 or 15 odd tools to make sure we understand the requirement or we document the requirement in a way we normally trying to capture all the conciseness, the completeness of a requirement, right? So for that, one of the tool which we use is a flowchart. Have you ever used flowcharting? Anybody of us used flowcharting before?
Yes, I have.
Oh, that's great. Sure. So this will be a kind of
Yeah.
revision.
Yeah, and this was the same like in hospital we used to do flow chart, how the patient arrives and how
Great,
we,
great.
yeah.
Wow. And the example is of patients as also.
Yes, yes, that's okay. So till the patient arrives and patients goes out with all the treatments and all, what is the process? We used to do the flow chart of that.
Yeah. These are also called standard operating procedures in every other domain
SOPs.
other than IT.
Yeah.
So how do we execute the process, right? So we try to jot down the conceptual flow of process in the flow chart. Okay, so let's try to understand this. As madam have clearly explained, the patients enter into the hospital. So patient arrives. See, we have used this symbol, like for start, we have oval shape. For patient arrives, we have rectangular shape. For the decision blocks, we use the diamond shape and so on and so forth. So there is a bit of uniformity across the globe on symbol of flowchart. But it's not really uniform. Flowchart is not a very matured process, but it's a simple process shared across various domains, across various business lines to document a flow of process, right? So let's try to understand this simplest possible process, and we'll do a bit of hands-on afterwards whenever we do our SRS to create a flow chart. Okay, so how do you do it? You mention a start, you mention the first process or first event happen in that process. So patient arrives. Then patient registered with the receptions. So if it's already registered, we directly go to the available nurse. So what we say, we mark his or her card, his or her attendance in our system, and then we'll assign a nurse to him or her. If the patient is not registered, the reception will basically get him or her registered, ask him to fill some forms, ask him to give some supporting documents for his IDs, ask him to give his social certificate number, driving license for address proof, ask him for whom to contact in case of emergency. These are all standard processes. So registering a patient process get executed if he or she is not registered. And when the available nurse is assigned, if a nurse is not available, he or she as a patient has to wait. If it's available, the nurse or the relevant nurse will take the patients to a consulting room. So we normally should have a block of taking the patient to the consulting room, record the health condition. The nurse will perform some heart rate monitoring, temperature taking, or observing if he or she have any wounds and all those things, and record those health conditions. And then the nurse will basically look out for a relevant corresponding doctor. If the doctor is available, assign the patient to the doctor. If it's not available, wait for a few minutes or not few hours, God forbid, to basically till the doctors gets available. So when doctor get available, he or she basically suggest some medicines and patients to the suggest some medicines or certain measures to be taken for that disease or whatever it may be, or just accident or just a fever, and subscribe some medicine and write on the paper when to come next Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatnot, mention a date there, basically arrange the appointment, and then he'll basically leave the patients so that he or she can go home, take rest, also guide on his rest procedures, eating procedures, and so on for so forth as per the need. So this is a kind of simple workflow, simple execution of events I mentioned in a flow chart. Anybody have any confusion in understanding flow chart? Okay, so
Mhm.
let me also add to that. Let me try to play a video. So we had a look at flowchart, right? So flowchart is a kind of uniform mechanism of documenting the flow of a process, right? So here, what we do, we try to jot down a process in a pictorial format. So as we normally understand in psychology, a picture makes really easier to understand 1,000 words or pages of text. So that's why pictures are used quite frequently as far as business analysis process goes. So what we do, we capture vision, we build those visions, we write down in the list of requirements, and then we create a list of features in a product, solution or services, right? So for that, we use some diagramming tools like flowchart. Now let's move ahead. Then we have something called activity diagram. Now the problem with flowcharts, we don't have a concrete uniform mechanism or symbol set of symbols to use. So we move to a level where we start building something uniform, something more of a agreed by everybody. So we have something called Unified Modeling Language, UML. All around the globe, the software architect started creating these, uniform symbolic mechanism for designing an architecture purpose, specifically for software, but now it's used for quite a few industry. And there we call the flowchart as an activity diagram. It's a kind of activity flow of a system, as we discussed in a flowchart. Describe the sequence of, from one activity to another. So it's a step-by-step explanation of the alternative path, step-by-step explanation of how things are happening on the ground as far as any process flow goes or flow of a system goes, right? Describe the parallel branched and concurrent flow of the system. Now, this is also basically was there in flowchart, but it was not uniform. So we made it uniform so that whenever we draw this, it'll be understood in the similar word by others. Okay. Now here, what we're trying to do, we're trying to jot down a flow of activity used to be used or reviewed by business user. Now we created a specific audience rather than generic diagramming. So when you create a simple diagram like order of a customer, we create a same diagram. So if I ask Shobhya ji, Akhil ji or Vandana ji to create a diagram, it will be much similar than a flowchart, because we have standardized symbols of creating this activity diagram. Okay. So here what we do, we try to jot down or work out with the uniform symbols. Okay. Like, receive an order from a customer, receipt of order, confirm the order and dispatch the order. If these 4 steps has to be drawn as an activity diagram, we should use a similar convention as well, what they call it, right? So after receiving the order request, means we are just trying to understand the sequencing of it. After receiving the order request, condition checks are performed to check if it's a normal or a special order. After the type of order is identified, dispatch activity is performed, and that mark as the termination of a process or completion of a process. So it's a simplistic and uniform way of doing these things, doing the flow charting with a uniformity here. So we are modeling a workflow by using activities, modeling the business requirement with these activity, a high level understanding of a system functionality in a step-by-step manner, right? And we normally investigating business requirement at a later stage as well. So if any extra alternative path have been created after, let's say, 1 month down the line, 2 months down the line, I can still update these activity diagrams and can guide on scope. Also, just to add to the flowchart, we also create a scope around the activity diagram. So we can guide on a scope or limitation of a user or system boundaries there as well. So we normally mention these as a footnotes nowadays. Previously, we couldn't able to guide these on these things, but now we all also standardize format for flow charting and define meaning of a symbol. Say there were these questions in the interview: how do you define flowchart and activity diagram? So we should be ready to use these answers to explain those scenarios, right? So let's have a look at activity diagram here. So how activity diagrams get jotted down? So there are a simple standardized way of depicting a process. So a solid sphere is the start of process. For termination, we use a sphere with a circle around it. All the processes are labeled by a oval shape or elongated oval shapes. all the decision box are normally marked as a diamonds, and the process flow is normally depicted as an arrowhead. So first step, second step can be clearly mentioned here. Let's try to understand from this activity diagram what actually we are doing. So we normally mention even the labeling process have a standardization into that. So we normally mentions activity diagram of an order management system. So customer sends an order on an order request. It might be online, offline, or at the corner shop. So what he does, he sends some orders. He sends a list of things he wants to purchase. Order request system confirms the receipt or order. So here what we are trying to do, we are trying to acknowledge the order received by the recipient. It can be as good as Amazon, you're ordering. So you have ordered, 3 items, 6 items, whatnot. The Amazon confirm is, do you want to have this item? You say yes or no. So there's a conditional check. Check if the order is normal order or special order. Normal order in the sense, we have the things ready. These are very frequently items ordered from me as a Nook shop or as an Amazon. Special order means it requires some special conditions, some special payment terminology, some special arrangement to be done to delivery or anything of that, right? Or mix and match of that. So for a normal order, you can just basically get the payment and start delivery process. For special order, you need to confirm, have we made the special condition what I will require, and then dispatch the order. So there's an additional process in the special order, and then the process get terminated after the user receives the order. You can add a couple of more, events here, depending upon your thought process. So it could be longer or shorter as per our thought process, and it's normal, right? So let's do one thing. Let's take a homework today, and in the next session we can describe that thing in depth. Let's create an activity diagram for employee attendance in State Farm. Okay, so here what we do, we'll try to basically build activity diagram. Start, the employee enters the gate. He basically put his finger or iris scanners as a next step. Is the employee already registered? Yes. Then the device show his name and time. If not, then there'll be a beep or alarm informing the supervisor or informing the gate person, this is a new entry, this is a guest. So he or she, as an the supervisor, will take a photo ID xerox and take whatever processes are necessary for non-registered employee or non-registered guest, and then he'll let the person enter, or he'll prevent from entering because of whatever reason he or she can mention, and otherwise if he's registered, he'll directly enter the office. The attendance is marked, the start timing is marked. Have you got this? Have you understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
understood. But
Yeah.
I
Go
mean,
ahead, ma'am. Any
these
questions?
the steps that we have to follow, will you
uh,
give them just like before for the activity diagram for the order management? There were like 4 steps, right? In
yeah,
your slide, in your
right.
slide. So, uh, like you have verbally said all these for the State Farm. Would you mind telling us in points so that we don't forget?
No, you need to see, everybody have their own process, right? As I told you, business analyst is a artwork. So you draw your diagrams. These are diagrams. Okay. So here what we do, we use our own imagination. If you find any alternative path, you can include that. I'm going to show you the symbols. Even I'm going to show you some video where we'll try to learn how the activity diagrams basically going to get created on a fly on a software also. There's a software called Flowchart. But yeah, let me play this video with you with this example where we'll try to understand how activity diagram is drawn. And after that, you have to do with your imagination. The thing is that as a business analyst, I have my way of understanding requirement, right? I might do better. I might use my experience in a most innovative way there. And that's why we basically use standardization in symbol set rather than using a robot to get the requirements. So this is more like a human work. You can't automate requirement gathering. That's what we understood from our experiences. Okay, so let me share this video and then we'll discuss more. Give me a minute. Where was that? Okay. Okay. So here I'll try to play this video of, come on. Okay, here, right? Yeah.
Hello everyone, welcome to Master Cookie Step-by-Step Guide. In this video, you are going to learn what is the activity diagram, how to draw an activity diagram. We will see each notation one by one. We will learn step by step with examples. I will try my best to explain step by step. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please the activity diagram. Another important diagram in UML is the activity diagram, which shows a dynamic view of the system. The activity diagram is a flowchart to represent the flow of control among the activities in the system. Simply, it's an operation of the system shown in the diagrammatic form, where it shows all the control flow from the one operation to another. So far, we have gone through the use case diagram, communication, sequence, and class diagram, which shows the messages flow from one object to another. But in the activity diagram, it shows the message flow from one activity to another. If you haven't gone through the previous video, please find the link in the description of this video. The flow of operation can be sequential, branch, or concurrent. The activity diagram is sometimes considered as the flowchart, although the diagrams look like a flowchart, but they are not. Now, let's move to learn different notation used in the activity diagram. Number one, start node. The black small fill circle is the standard notation for an initial stage before an activity takes place. In the flowchart, we draw in an oval shape labeled with start, whereas in the activity diagram, we draw with fill small circle as shown in the diagram to represent the start of the activity. Final activity node. The black circle that looks like a selected radio button is the symbol for the in stage of activity. In the flowchart, we represent in oval shape labeled with the in it, whereas in the activity diagram, we represent with small fill circle include borderline circle as shown in the figure. Another notation is activity. The activity symbols are the basic building blocks of an activity diagram and usually have a short description of the activity they represent. It is represented by the oval shape as well as a round-edged rectangle box as shown in the figure. Control flow. A solid line with an arrow represents the direction flow of activities. The arrow points in the direction of progressing activities. Join. A join combines two concurrent activities back into a flow where only one activity is happening at a time, which is represented as shown in the figure. Fork. A fork splits single activity flow into two concurrent activities, which are represented as shown in the figure. For example, an online flight reservation system. The activity starts and needs to enter arrival and departure date. After that, they need to perform two activities, one search availability, whereas another interpersonal detail, which are represented by a fork symbol. Similarly, these two activities join together and flow another activity like select flight, which can be shown by join symbol as shown in the figure. Another notation is decision symbol. It is similar to the flowchart, which is represented by the diamond shape, where two paths coming out of a decision and the condition text let you know which options are mutually exclusive. Conditions. Condition text is placed next to the decision maker to let you know under what condition.
Okay, the next thing we're going to learn is use case diagram. Now, this is one of the most important diagrams we're going to draw, and maximum, IT companies or, all the matured company, they use this use case diagram. Now, as far as sequence goes, which diagrams to be done first, which diagrams to be done after, there are many ways about it, but these diagrams are stateless diagrams. So once you draw the diagram, You can describe it before another, or the way you want it, frankly speaking. So it's just a kind of supporting auditory artifact to be included in the SRS for a given functionality. These diagrams depict, specifically in flowchart, we are basically denoting the different events there. In use case diagram, we are trying to describe sequence of activity initiated by an actor. Now, what is actor? Even that, gentlemen have tried to express in terms of actors. So what is actor? An actor is basically a stakeholder or a user who triggered some functionality within your solution. So if you are developing an attendance management system, could you think for any actor? Can you give me any actor which will use this system?
Can you just repeat that question again? I kind of
Sure,
missed
no
you.
problem. Let's say as a business analyst for State Farm, I'm trying to do a conceptualized use case diagram for attendance management system. Could you name a single actor or a user who's going to use this system?
The HR manager.
Perfect.
Every employee?
Exactly. Yes, I want that answer. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you understand what I'm trying to convey to you, right? So these actors interact with the system and the functionality normally mentioned in the oval shape. These rectangular box are called the scope. On left hand side we have prime actors. On right hand side we have secondary actor. Okay. Could you see the screen? Diagram on the screen. The use case diagram. Have I shared this thing or not? Okay, you can see the diagram, right? So there are prime actors and there are secondary actors. Prime actors who basically interact with the system, who initiate things. Secondary actor on the right hand side, they support the system to execute. These are all standardized mechanism to draw use case diagram. And the diagram is drawn by an online mechanism called Lucid Chart. I'll share the link in the WhatsApp group as well, so that you can go and start building this diagram, which is a free of cost. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay anything to use that software. Now, why we use software to draw this diagram? Because if I draw customer, I might draw it with shorter legs or longer legs. If you draw the customer, you might draw it with a bigger head or a smaller head. So to make the symbol uniform, we use software, and there are quite a few software available to draw use case diagram. Okay, but the best right now, and which is a free of cost, is Lucid Chart. LUIC. I'll share the link, so don't worry on that part. Okay, so let's try to understand this use case diagram. Use case describe a sequence of action like flowchart, but we are going a step further now. So use case describe a sequence of actions performed by a system that provides a value to an actor. Why we do this? Because system is going to do something for me. If I order something, system will deliver something for me. If I basically, mark an attendance, that attendance is marked, and I'll get paid as in salary for that day's salary, and so on and so forth. The use case describe the system's behavior under various conditions as its response to a request from one of the stakeholder called primary actor. So all these primary actors who are on the left side, the customer and time. Well, let's talk about the time afterwards. The customer who does something for getting something in return, right? And it triggers something called the old shape events. So when customer does search for items, then he places the order. The system processes the order for dispatch and all those things. In case customer needs some help, he'll ask or call customer support, who is another actor. Okay, so these are supporting actors and there are prime actors. Okay, this is a sample case for ordering food use. Okay, let's take a step further and try to understand use case diagram in depth.
Excuse me,
So
Ravindra.
yeah, please.
Can you repeat that one if you don't mind? Because I want
No.
to understand actor and primary actor.
Sure, definitely. Primary actor initiate things, and they are drawn on the left hand side of the scope box. These rectangles are the scopes. And the secondary actors who basically doesn't initiate anything but support the events are normally drawn on the left hand side. And whenever you practice this, you will understand this in much depth. These are diagrams used all over the world as far as the business analyst goes. And you normally include these diagrams in your SRS as well. The fastest way can be a pen and paper, but the best and uniform way, even on mobile, the lucid charts are available. But normally, all organization uses their own software to draw use case diagram. There's one of the software called Rational Rose, which is owned by IBM now. Rational Rose was an old company, where I worked with Grady Bush, who's the forefather of UML notification, for some time. So I know these things, how these notation have came into life. Why we use these actors like human figures, because primary actors are normally human figures. And all these supporting actors, they are also supports the human figure. So we normally classify them as pseudo-human figures. So that's why left side, right side. Mostly these are systems like database, the order processing system, the payment system, the customer support system, because there's no single human here. Well, single human can be included in customer support, tax authority, even in payment processing as well. But you don't have to name them. Customer, I can name them, right? Means there could be a human customer who is initiating orders. So that's why we normally put them on the left hand side of the scope box. The rectangular box is what we call scope box. Okay, does that answer your question, ma'am?
So in the employee attendance, who is the primary actor and who will be the actor?
Wow.
So can I
Yeah, sure.
rephrase
That's
my
what I am.
understanding?
Please.
Vandana, from what I understood, Ravindra, if you can correct me out there if I'm saying this wrong.
Sure.
Let's
Please
say,
go
for
ahead.
example, a primary actor is in this example would be an HR department who's designing that system in association with the technology department. So they become the primary actors. The secondary actor here would be the user. So an employee who walks in and registers himself onto the attendance system becomes the secondary actor.
No.
So
Am
you're
I correct
saying,
about that?
so
No.
that means,
There's a problem. No, there's a problem. There's a problem.
no, that means, no,
Okay.
Let
no.
me
If,
explain.
okay, my
Let me
understanding is the primary actor will be the product owner is a primary actor.
No.
Sure.
Oh,
No,
the
no.
HR will be the
Yeah,
primary
HR
actor.
is a primary actor, but more than that, that employee is a primary actor. He's
Yeah,
going to use
the
it, right? He's going to
mm,
initiate certain things. The first
Oh,
thing
okay.
he
I
initiates is
understood that the
attendance.
employee is a secondary actor.
No,
That's
no, no,
what
no.
was my
Secondary
understanding.
actor is the system or the database or the biometrics, because they are responding to the event of a prime actor. The most prime actor is the user, is the employee who registered the attendance, right? He wants to register attendance
okay.
with the system. So employee puts his finger or iris on the iris scanner, and the iris scanner responds with his name, time, and employee number in most of the cases, so that you can understand Ravindra Pandey employee number 999 is entered into office at 8:53 a.m. Something like that, sir. And these three details goes to database. So database accept these entities. So Ravindra Pandey's in time is recording. Same way, whenever he or she goes out, he'll put his iris or finger on the scanner, and same thing will get recorded. Ravindra Pandey leaving office at 5:30 p.m. His employee number is so and so. The employee number is to make sure we are not, basically it's for the reference. We'll discuss those things whenever we discuss primary, secondary key, and supporting factors and all those things. But yes,
So
these things are happened because I have, as an employee, initiated those things. So all my left hand side actors are prime actors. Prime actor initiates something. Now why HR executive? Because HR executive pulls down reports from the system. So HR executive wants an attendance report of Ravindra Pandey. So what he'll do, he'll go to the system and say, hey system, He type on some web page or in his mobile saying, give me attendance detail of Ravindra Pandey, employee number so and so. So system will give him Ravindra Pandey entry on so much, entry on this date at this time, with this gate, and whatnot details he or she wants as an HR executive. So HR executive is another prime actor because he or she talks to the system and gets detail or gets some work done for him or her. Now every actor, secondary actor who supports the system. So the database is basically a supporting actor here because database is outside the system, right? The system which I'm going to design is within that scope. So that scope, that rectangle box represent whatever need to design or develop. And that's what the business analysis is all about. Have you understood what I'm trying to say here?
So no, that the database will be part of registering the employee, right? So
No.
uh,
It's outside. Have you designed the database, ma'am?
yeah.
Yes, then yes, it will be included. If you're not designed or altered a database, it's a supporting act. Supporting in the sense they are supporting you externally. If you design, it's a part and parcel of the system. So database will come in the rectangular box if you have designed the database for it as well. Could you understand what I'm trying to say here?
No, not really. So design the database will because that is an important part, because when you are registering,
Not
where is the
always.
entry? No, when the
Nowadays,
customer comes and when the employee comes and scans in, he does the iris thing, all that information has to go into the database. Where else it will go, right?
no, has to go into a database is fine. This is like you are eating food. If you cook by yourself, then you know what's there in the box and all. If you ordered online, you don't know the taste. So it's not owned by you. You are not authored it. You are not created it. Okay. So for that scenario, we can use certain system externally. Even for that matter, that iris scanner, we have just connected to our solution, right? It's not designed and developed by me. Could you understand what I'm trying to say here, ma'am?
So that means that iris scanner you are saying is a
An
secondary actor.
external to the system. I have just connected with the wires. Now there could be two ways of thinking, but don't get confused at this point. Somebody might say, I have programmed the interface, so it should be included. Let's not debate on that. These are the contradictory statements. Normally, whatever you haven't created is outside the scope. Normally, in the real world, even today, I'll write a script, what you call database script, and give it to the database administrator of a state farm, so that he will create those tables for me. So database is created for me by him. So that's why it's an outside actor. And nowadays, this thing happens as in we have to give the script to the database administrator of a state farm or database administrator of at a Infosys, which is outside your team. Database administration is a big role. Even the supplier of computers, whatever you want to work on, the laptop, right? You have not created your laptop. You have ordered and got it for you. Well, you're working on it. You say you own it, but in a systematic way, it's an external to your system. You are using it. You have not created or authored it. Could you understand what I'm trying to say, ma'am?
Yes and no, because I'm just trying, because the state farm.
Mhm.
Okay, so the database has been built by the Infosys, you're saying here?
Yeah, you
No,
are
so
not.
what I understood was, I mean, again, if you can correct me, is that, let's say, for example, in this whole iris scanner, the hardware of installing the iris scanner, for example, is an external actor, is it?
It can be, or you can do also. See, installing is different thing.
No, I'm just
Like
using installing as an example, but a hardware supplier becomes an external actor.
that's right. Very rightly said, sir.
Okay. All right. So Vandana, what he's trying to say is that, you design the entire system, the process and stuff, which is done internally, but you would have to depend on an external actor to get a hardware which can be installed and then
Can start working.
whatever integrated with your own processes and systems. So while you designing the processes, implementing the systems are the internal actor. Uh, the external actor is the supplier who brings in the hardware. Am I correct on that, Ravindra?
Very rightly said, sir. See, scope is all about what I'm going to do as a business
Right.
analyst, as a developer. This is my work. This is what my scope is of work is. Let's think it from a maid comes to your house, right? So what are the use case for the maid, Vandana madam? Can you specify the use cases for the maid come to your house? You have a, what you can say, bartan wali, kapde wali. Well, not in North America, but in India, I think you might have, had these maids, right? Helping you to clean the house, to clean your clothes, to clean your utensils and all. Could you recall a maid, ma'am?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So think about the use case. She washes the utensils, but does she own the utensils? Why she washes the utensils? Because you pay her, right? At the end of the month. So her scope of work is clean the house, clean the utensils, clean the clothes. Use the washing machine if she needs in the process. But still, at the end of the day, it's her responsibility to get the work done. That's the scope. That's what we talk about scope. So as an analyst, my scope is conceptualize the diagram, conceptualize the solution. So I'll include whatever we are going to develop, whatever we're going to include in the solution. Does that make sense?
So when you're saying about the maid, if I take that example, what, so who will be the customer? Who will be in the scope? Who will be the output here as a secondary?
Can
Yeah,
I
please.
button, Ravindra?
Yeah,
If you
please,
can
please,
go
please.
back to your food example, I think that was a better example than a maid. Let's say, for example, I'm hungry. Uh, I cook my own food, so I go through certain processes and stuff like that. But suddenly I realize that, oil is missing, for example, just a random example that I can think of, and which is where I depend on somebody else outside to bring me that oil. So that somebody else outside becomes my external actor, the actor outside, whereas everything else is internal. Would
That's right.
that be a better
That's
analogy?
right. So oil supplier is your secondary actor who is
Correct, secondary
supporting
actor.
your
Yeah.
cooking. Very rightly said, sir. Yes, ma'am. Now, could you give me the use case for the maid comes to your house? Vandana, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Vandana,
Okay.
drawing parallel on that whole, the food example that he used, I am hungry, I have all the ingredients, so I am drawing my
So
processes about this ingredient needs to be added, that ingredient
See,
needs to
this
be
is
added. But
yeah,
suddenly I realize that oil is missing, so I have to depend on an external actor to bring in that oil. All right. And while
you see the
everything else
diagram
is
on the screen.
internal.
Yeah, you see the diagram on the screen.
yeah.
Waiter comes to me and take my order. So waiter is another actor. Me as a client, I order the food via waiter. So every human is an actor who is interacting, who is prime because he is initiating certain things.
So
He or
that
she.
means the maid will be a primary actor?
Yeah, she can be a
Yes.
primary actor, but here primary in the sense who is the main actor who is basically getting things done or initiating. If you're not there, you're not, the maid won't be there. If the client is not there, the waiter will not be there. Like
Okay, so
as Akhilji
so
explained, the
in the
oil
maid
waha.
case, so
Hmm,
in the maid case, I will be the primary actor.
that's right, because you have appointed her, you have make her come to your house.
And
Here, so
and
you are
maid
the
will be an actor.
yeah, that's she will be an actor. Like in this case, waiter is an actor, or the oil wala is also an actor. Now, where do you put these secondary actors on left and right side? It's debatable because normally, what philosophy says, the actors who are not shown their face to you are normally goes on the right side. So this is really, kind of
So basically,
debatable.
the back end, the people at the back end, which don't
Back end
interact
are,
with the
yeah, they are normally mentioned on the right side. Okay, But yeah, let me, give you a video or play a video for you, and we'll understand in depth, like, what type of actors how do you basically will define these things, like, and this is the one of the best video I like myself, and I keep sharing this video.
My name's Chloe.
Let me play the, let me, share this video for you. Here, I'll, come on, let's zoom, start share screen. Let's try to understand. She is just talking about symbols as well, and she is going to give you a complete in-depth run through as what all symbols and how do we use it. Then you can relate it to the actual practical scenario. Okay, let's hear her out. Oh, come on.
And I'll be teaching you everything you need to know about UML use case diagrams. We'll start with a high-level overview, then we'll talk about systems, actors, use cases, and relationships. And finally, we'll build an entire use case diagram together and go over examples to explain these concepts in depth. Have you ever had an idea that makes perfect sense in your head, but when you try to explain it to someone else, they're completely lost?
So use case diagram basically brings down the idea to paper, to design. That's the most important things which we need to learn. So whenever somebody asks why use case, you jot down the vision as a diagram, as an activity flow, as he or she have been explained to you. Okay, this is the most crucial part of the use case diagram. Now let's hear it out.
Maybe your idea is for a new app, and every time you talk about it, people don't really understand how they'd interact with the app or what it would do. This type of scenario is where a use case diagram is very helpful. Here's a simple description of a use case diagram. First, it shows a system or application. Then it shows the people, organizations, or other systems that interact with it. And finally, it shows a basic flow of what the system or application does. It's a very high-level diagram and typically won't show a lot of detail, but it's a great way to communicate complex ideas in a fairly basic way. Before we really get into the tutorial, let's talk about how you're going to make a use case diagram. You can draw them out with pen and paper, but a diagramming application is going to be much easier. Today I'll be using Lucidchart, and you can too, for free actually. Just click the link to access Lucidchart's website. Enter your email address, and you'll have a free Lucidchart account in just a few seconds. It's easy to use, and you can follow along with me as we build a use case diagram. Okay, so we're going to break down use case diagrams into 4 different elements: systems, actors, use cases, and relationships. Let's start with systems.
System in the sense the solution which we are working on, right? So here, system is basically the scopes part of it. Okay, let's understand.
A system is whatever you're developing. It could be a website, a software component, a business process, an app, or any number of other things. You represent a system with a rectangle, and you put the name of the system at the top. We're going to build a use case diagram for a very simple banking application. We'll call our system Banking App. This rectangle helps define the scope of the system. Anything within this rectangle happens within the banking app. Anything outside of this rectangle doesn't happen in the banking app. The next element is an actor, which is depicted by this stick figure. An actor is going to be someone or something that uses our system to achieve a goal. That could be a person, an organization, another system, or an external device. So who or what is going to be using our banking app? The most obvious actor is a customer. We're going to have customers that download and use our banking app. Another actor that we'll want in our diagram is the bank. The bank is going to provide information that feeds into our banking app, like transactions and account balances. Here are a couple things to keep in mind when dealing with actors. First, it's important to note that these actors are external objects. They always need to be placed outside of our system. Second, actors need to be thought of as types or categories. For our banking app, an actor isn't going to be a specific individual or a specific organization. We wouldn't label our actors as John and Chase Bank. We want to keep things categorical. So right now we're saying that both customers and banks are going to use our app. And this brings up the topic of primary and secondary actors. A primary actor initiates the use of the system, while a secondary actor is more reactionary. So in our example, which actor is primary and which actor is secondary? The primary actor is customer. The customer is going to initiate the use of our system. They're going to pull out their phone, open up our banking app, and do something with it. Bank, on the other hand, is a secondary actor. The bank is only going to act once the customer does something. If the customer goes on the app to see how much money is in their account, only then does the bank engage with our system to provide the balance. Primary actors should be to the left of the system, and secondary actors should be to the right. This just visually reinforces the fact that customer engages with the banking app and then the bank reacts. The next element is a use case, and this is where you really start to describe what our system does. A use case is depicted with this oval shape, and it represents an action that accomplishes some sort of task within the system. They're going to be placed within the rectangle because they're actions that occur within the banking app. So what is our banking app going to do? We're going to keep things very simple. Our banking app is going to allow a customer to log in, check their account balance, transfer funds between accounts, and make payments towards bills. So if this is what our banking app does, we're going to have use cases that describe each of those actions. We'll have a use case called login, another called check balance, another called transfer funds, and finally make payment. You can see that each of these use cases starts with a verb and reinforces an action that takes place. We also want them to be sufficiently descriptive. If this use case just said transfer, that'd be too vague. Finally, it's good practice to put your use cases in a logical order when possible. That's why we put login at the top. That's the first thing that will happen when a customer uses our banking app. The final element in use case diagrams are relationships. An actor, by definition, is using our system to achieve a goal. So each actor has to interact with at least one of the use cases within our system. In our example, a customer is going to log into our banking app. So we draw a solid line between the actor and the use case to show this relationship. This type of relationship is called an association, and it just signifies a basic communication or interaction. A customer is going to interact with the rest of these use cases as well. They're going to check balance, transfer funds, and make payment. So we'll draw solid lines out to each of those as well. Secondary actors will also have relationships. Remember, each actor has to interact with at least one use case. So which use cases will the bank interact with? When a customer wants to check their balance on the app, the bank is going to provide the correct amount. Let's draw a line between bank and check balance. Similarly, when a customer wants to transfer funds or make a payment, the bank is going to follow through with those transactions. We don't need to draw a line to log in because that process happens within the banking app. There's no need for the bank to actually get involved with the login process. There are three other types of relationships in addition to association. There's include, extend, and generalization. Let's build out this diagram with additional use cases in order to explain these types of relationships. When a customer types in their login information, our banking app is going to verify the password before completing the login process. But if the password is incorrect, the banking app is going to display an error message. So let's create two new use cases for verify password and display login error. When a customer wants to transfer funds or make a payment, our banking app is going to make sure there's enough money to complete those transactions. So we'll also create another use case called verify sufficient funds. And finally, when a customer wants to make a payment, our banking app is going to give them the option of paying from either their checking account or their savings account. So we'll create two more use cases called pay from checking and pay from savings. Let's circle back to this verify password use case and talk about relationships again. How does verify password relate to the rest of the diagram? Neither of our actors are directly initiating this action. It's just immediately going to happen within our banking app every time there's an attempt to log in. This is an include relationship. An include relationship shows dependency between a base use case and an included use case. Every time the base use case is executed, the included use case is executed as well. Another way to think of it is that the base use case requires an included use case in order to be complete. When you have an include relationship, you draw a dashed line with an arrow that points towards the included use case. So in our example, login is the base use case and verify password is the included use case. Every time a customer logs in, our banking app will automatically verify password. This login use case won't be complete unless verify password is complete. So we draw a dashed line with the arrow pointing towards the included use case, and we write include in double chevrons. The next type of relationship is the extend relationship. An extend relationship has a base use case and an extend use case. When the base use case is executed, the extend use case will only happen if certain criteria are met. Another way to think of it is that you have the option to extend the behavior of the base use case. When you have an extend relationship, you draw a dashed line with an arrow that points towards the base use case. In our example, login is a base use case, and display login error is an extended use case. Our banking app won't display a login error message every time a customer logs in. This will only happen once in a while when a customer accidentally enters an incorrect password. Since this is an extend relationship, we draw a dashed line with an arrow that points to the base use case and write extend between double chevrons. Hopefully, this thoroughly explains the difference between include and extend relationships. But just in case, here's a very basic example to help differentiate between the two. If you sneeze, you will close your eyes. That's an included relationship because it's going to happen every time. Additionally, if you sneeze, you might say, excuse me. That's an extended relationship because it supplements the sneeze, but isn't completely necessary in the sneezing process. Just remember that include happens every time, extend happens just sometimes, and don't forget that the arrows point in opposite directions. One quick thing to note is that multiple base use cases can point to the same included or extended use case. For example, both transfer funds and make payment are going to point to verify sufficient funds as an included use case. We want our banking app to make this check every time either of these base use cases occur. You don't need to duplicate the verify sufficient funds use case. The simpler your diagram, the better. The last type of relationship we'll discuss is generalization, also known as inheritance. When you make a payment from our banking app, you can do so from either your checking account or your savings account. In this scenario, make a payment is a general use case, and pay from savings and pay from checking are specialized use cases. You could also use the terms parent and children. Each child shares the common features of the parent, but each child adds something more on its own. To show that this is a generalization, we draw this type of arrow from the children up to the parent. You can have generalizations on use cases like we have here. You can also have generalizations with actors. In certain scenarios, you might want to distinguish between a new customer and a returning customer. You can make them both children to a general customer actor, which would allow you to have certain behaviors or qualities unique to each of these children.
So, or we have a registered client, customer or non-registered customer, or registered employee, or the employee who has been registered with the system, or unregistered employee, or anonymous employee, and so on and so forth.
One last shape that we'll quickly talk about is a use case with extension points. You can see an example here. The name of the use case is above the line, and then there are extension points on the line.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, can we go up, pay from checking or pay from savings up, where she's showing the generalized relationship?
Yeah, no problem.
Just go back a little. Yeah. So
You
when
can
you
do
do
so from
make
either your
payments, when it is make payment, she's saying it is generalized. So can it not be exclude also? Because sometimes you can make payment from checking, sometimes you can make payment from savings.
Right.
That can be.
Those are wherever you do, okay. Those are like whenever you repeat things. These are whenever you choose either of them. So when I say bring water for me in my house, either of my kid can bring water for me, or the maid can bring water for me. But most of the time, my kids. So either of them, if both brings water, that doesn't make sense, right? I'm not going to bring 2 glasses of water at a time normally. And these are normal scenarios. Includes are basically normally happening whenever the things happen. But there are 2 options to it. If there are no options, like for transfer of funds and make payments, there's only verify sufficient fund is only way to check it out. There are no two different ways.
No,
Here
I'm
are,
saying exclude. I'm not saying include. Like make payment from checking and pay from savings. So sometimes we can pay from savings because she said,
third way to it.
no,
Exclude is whenever there is an option. Do we have an option? Do we have an option of another, use case? Pay from checking, pay from saving. Or yeah, you can pay from a cash if you want to, but then even pay from cash can be another exclude here. Exclude to pay from checking or pay from saving. But the application talks about banking. So you are paying through bank. So paying through bank includes these two options: pay from checking and pay from saving. Have you understood the scenario, ma'am?
so you're saying exclude cannot come between make payment from checking, between make payment and pay from checking and make payment and pay from savings. So exclude is not, extend will not work.
I don't know why you're confusing yourself. Okay, there's a one option, there are two options. Okay, now these are optional things, so you can have two extents mentioned there, because
That's what I'm saying.
no. But let me tell you what's the problem there. Now I need to select. I can't exclude both. I can exclude login error altogether. I might not get that error because my password is easy, and whenever I enter my password, I never get to an error saying ki I have a login or credential error. That can be a possibility. But here, that's not the possibility. You have to choose either one of them. Would you get my point?
Okay.
For cleaning house, maid should be there. Or let's say your washing powder should be there. Even if she cleans by bucket water, she cleans by washing machine or whatnot. Washing powder is required or the soap is required. You can't exclude either of them. But yes, there are options. You can choose powder, you can choose soap. You get my point, ma'am?
Okay.
So we have to use either one of them. You can't exclude both. Exclude means you can exclude both, or you can exclude altogether. It might not be in a simple form. It's an exception. Here, it's not an exception. You need to choose either or. You got my point, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. This is really evolved over times. These diagrammings have really thought through by scientific, community for that matters. We had almost, 3 scientists from Caltech, one from Carnegie Mellon and all, whenever we were developing these UML notification. So these are all thought through mechanisms. Okay.
Your checking account or your savings account. In this scenario, make a payment is a general use case, and pay from savings and pay from checking are specialized use cases. You could also use the terms parent and children. Each child shares the common behaviors of the parent, but each child adds something more on its own. To show that this is a generalization, we draw this type of arrow from the children up to the parent. You can have generalizations on use cases like we have here. You can also have generalizations with actors. In certain scenarios, you might want to distinguish between a new customer and a returning customer. You can make them both children to a general customer actor, which would allow you to have certain behaviors or qualities unique to each of these children. One last shape that we'll quickly talk about is a use case with extension points. You can see an example here. The name of the use case is above the line, and then there are extension points below the line. Extension points are just a detailed version of extend relationships. This use case shows that a customer can set up their profile in our banking app. And then these extension points show us that when a customer is setting up their profile, they'll have the option to navigate to a couple different screens. If a customer is confused, they can go to Profile Help. And if they want details regarding their private information, they can go to Privacy Info. Those extension points branch off to extended use cases. Go to Profile Help and show Privacy Info. We can even add a note to show what sort of conditions would lead these extension points. Now we have a complete use case diagram with various elements that help explain what our banking app does. This is a very basic example, but remember that even complex systems should be restricted to a simplistic visualization of functionality, behavior, and relationships. If you'd like to take a closer look at this example, click on the card in the upper right-hand corner. You'll find this exact banking app example plus several other examples and resources. Thanks for watching this tutorial on UML use case diagrams. Please subscribe to our channel.
I'll also basically share this link with you. This is one of the really great video there to understand. And if you watch it a couple of times, you'll get more details to it. Let's do one thing. We are already crossed our time limits. Pardon me for that. But yes, these questions were really good, and it's really beneficial for understand in depth how we can depict the thought process of a person into diagramming. Okay, so the homework is basically draw an activity diagram and a use case diagram for an employee and non-employee registering with the attendance management. Any question on that? And yes, there are thought process thinking involved, but it shouldn't take more than half an hour for anybody.
Can you please repeat that? What I have to do in case diagram?
I'll write down, ma'am. I'll normally
Okay.
send a note after our
Okay.
session
Okay. Okay.
on a WhatsApp group. No worries. The question is quite vital, and as you are
Okay.
basically doing it for the first time, so I normally send minutes after our discussion, like what we
Okay.
have
Okay.
done. So
Okay.
I'll mention it there. So don't worry on that
Okay.
part.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. And
Okay.
if you think you can WhatsApp me even during whenever you got a question. Don't worry on that part.
And one more thing.
Please.
So the previous classes, I will have the
I'll share
recording.
those recording links with you.
Okay.
So don't worry, and I'll be with you basically. We'll discuss these things at a mutual time. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Uh, Today is Tuesday, right? We'll have our class on. We don't have a class on Saturday. We'll have our class on Tuesday because let's take a break. I got certain engagement for this weekend. So let's meet
Okay.
again on 1st of March. And ma'am, most probably on 27th. No, sorry, 26th. We might get together. Let me find a time and we'll coordinate on WhatsApp. If others
Okay.
want
Okay.
to join, others can also join. We'll basically go through the overall reviewing what we've learned till date. Okay, so it's a kind of revision class. If you want to join, feel free to join. I'll share the details on the group itself. So don't worry on that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so let's
So
talk.
Ravinder,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
sorry, Ravinder, sorry to
No
interrupt
problem.
you. So if when we are drawing the use case diagram and the activity diagram for the assignment that you're giving, and in case there is any question, what did you say? How can we connect with you?
Yeah, you can post the question on WhatsApp and I'll answer you.
Okay.
See, I'm in India, so your day is my night, right? So
Yeah.
either I shouldn't trouble you or you shouldn't trouble.
Okay.
So for
But
that, we'll put the question on the group itself. Don't worry
on
on
the
that.
group, okay, on the
Yeah,
group chat.
and if you
Okay.
draw a diagram with pen and paper, you can capture it with your mobile and post it there. We'll discuss this in our next session because use case diagramming is one of the most important thing a business analyst does. So this is really good to understand, and be it for that matters as a person. If I can draw a use case diagram, I can. It will be really helpful in my life as well. I'll tell you why and how in the next session.
And
Okay.
you know what? And is that I'm not sure if that works. Like weekend for our practice, so that we become like efficient. First time, second time will be slow, so that we become efficient. Give us some examples, and Akhil, myself, and I'm sorry, I'm missing your name. You joined new. We
Yeah. My
can
name is
actually
Shoiba. Yeah.
Hi, Shoiba. So we can
Yeah.
actually uh, group together and do some brainstorm for two or three of them, and then we can do independently. I mean,
Madam,
if it works for Akhil and
yeah, you can use this group as well.
Yeah,
Means you
works
don't.
for me.
Yeah. It works for me. It works for me.
Yeah, so don't worry. Only don't scold anybody or don't
so
criticize.
Akhil, where are you? Akhil, are you in India?
No. I'm in US myself. I'm in Columbus in Georgia.
Okay.
Only I'm in India, I believe, right now. But yeah, that happens. No
Yeah.
worries. Okay, so let's have a great weekend, and please do practice. Please do think through, and we'll meet on Tuesday again, and we'll go over it again. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thank you for your time,
Also,
Ravinder.
yeah.
Yeah.
On Sunday, you will tell me the time when you are free.
Yes, ma'am. I'll tell you. We'll discuss
Okay.
on that.
Saturday. It's Saturday, right? Or
You
Sunday?
can
No,
also join
actually,
me.
this is my first class, so I just wanted to do a review.
I can
He
understand.
told me, yeah, he told me he will be available on Sunday.
No,
Okay.
not Sunday, but even let me check out if you can do tomorrow as well. Let me check
Okay.
out that. Okay, let
Okay.
me
Okay.
work out that.
Yeah, I'm available tomorrow also.
Sure. So then
Yeah.
let me find out, and then we'll take it out from there. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Uh,
ma'am.
Ravinder, whenever you're doing the whole revision session with her, I think it'll be. I would love to just
Sure,
be a part
definitely.
of that
That's it.
steps.
Yeah, I'll put it on a group. Don't worry. Okay.
Brilliant, awesome.
We are
So we
learning
have a
together.
class on Thursday that is still stays. The only Saturday class is something that we are not doing, correct?
Saturday,
The
Friday, or
Tuesday.
Sunday, whatever time permits.
No, and it is only this Saturday, right?
Yeah. It's only this Saturday.
Yeah.
No worries
Mm.
on that. Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay,
Have a
thank
nice
you.
night.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Bye. Take
Okay.
Good
care.
night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.